On today's show, we're sharing what you should do when you hit a wall and are all out of content ideas.
Welcome to JFDI with the two Lauras. This is the podcast for freelance social media managers, where we share our decades of experience and give you tips, advice, and hopefully inspiration to help you in your business as a freelance social media manager. We release a new episode every Tuesday, and right after the show, we hang out in our community, the Social Media Managers Hub, to answer your questions and dive deeper into the things that we discuss here. On the show today, we're tackling a common problem amongst social media managers: lack of ideas for your content, and worse still, your clients' content. We've all been there, so you're not alone, but there are a few things that you can have up your sleeve to get you through these tricky times, and we are going to spill the beans on all of them. So where shall we start, Laura?
Okay, let's start with the easy thing.
Oh, I'm all for that.
Is to take a break.
Have a break, have a Kit Kat.
Oh, ooh, yes. Love a bloody Kit Kat. Yeah, I think whether it just be just go and have a cup of tea or go and put a load of washing on, or whether you want to grab your headphones and go for a walk and listen to this podcast, obviously, walk the dog, whatever it is, like you speak to any creative, you can't force it, can you? And if anything, when you force something, it's when you have that kind of blank page. So I'm an advocate for just take a break.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. I will always, and I know how much it annoys you when I go on a walk with a podcast and then send you a Slack message going, "I've just listened to a podcast." But I always come up with loads of like little ideas and inspirations for like our daily emails and stuff like that, just from listening to podcasts. So I would highly recommend that.
Yeah.
Like even just get in your car and go for a drive if it's raining or whatever. Just get away from where you usually have to do this work. Just a change of scenery can make a massive difference. I think.
And just where, like, it could just be as simple as where you're working. Like, I come and sit in here in my office when I need to just get my head down and properly work. Whereas when I know that I'm going to have a day where I'm kind of jumping more between talking to you and just doing little bits of work, I can sit anywhere. So you might be the same. You might find that if you sit in a certain place in your house, you may feel more creative than if you're sat, it's like some people like to be able to sit out the window because that helps. That other people will find that really distracting, me being one. So just sometimes simple things like that can really just help the creativity flow.
Yeah, and I think when you're having a break, like the obvious thing to do when you can't think of ideas of what to post on social is to go on social and look for ideas. But I think you can still go on social, but stop looking for ideas. Just go and just scroll. And if you're like going into it in a different mindset because it's just your way of having a break and looking at what other people are doing that's interesting to you, those things can spark ideas too without you actually going out looking for them.
Yeah, see, I can't do that. Like if you were to say to me, Laura, we need like 10 new content ideas, obviously I avoid that for a few days. And then if I was to go on social, I would get overwhelmed then, especially like if there's loads of people kind of saying similar things. I'm just like, because then I panic. Like, how can I make this different? How can I, it just gives me too much.
Yeah.
So I guess the only time I would go on social when I'm trying to think of content ideas is to go to look in analytics, which maybe is a nice smooth transition into point number 2.
God, you should work in daytime TV, Laura. That was smooth.
Do you think that's what I did want to be when I was at college? So the second idea is to look at repurposing the content that you've already posted. So that whether that's obviously for you or for your client, the same applies. So I would always look at, and we sometimes do this together, don't we? We just go, look, what do we want? Maybe we just need to inject a bit of engagement and visibility into our content. So we'll go and have a look at what content reached the most amount of people, for example, and how can we repurpose that? Or does that give us an idea to do something else? So I would definitely suggest repurposing content, and not just good performing content. You could look at some content and you think, oh God, this was such a good idea, but it's tanked. how can I make that better? So you don't always have to be thinking for these new ideas, do you? You can just think, look, this post had the idea behind it was brilliant. It's obviously not quite hit the mark. How can I do that differently? Does it need a different hook? Does it need to be a reel? Or does it need to be just longer form text on LinkedIn or whatever it may be? So I'm a big advocate for a bit of repurposing.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's important, like Laura just said, when you're looking in your analytics, like think about what actually is it you need content for. And if it is that you need content because you're trying to grow an audience, for example, like look at the content that did reach loads of people. If you want content that's going to be like really engaging, look at the content that's had loads of comments in the past. And like sometimes you can literally just lift it and repost it. You don't even have to do any work. You can literally just take it off, put it back on again. But other times it might be that you see something and it's worked really well, maybe as a carousel, and you've seen a great piece of trending audio that you could just quickly, bash it out as a reel, and just use the same idea. Because remember that different people respond to different formats of content. I don't very often watch reels, for example, but I will read through a carousel like there's no one's business. So if you're trying to find me and you posted it as a reel last time, I probably didn't pay attention to it.
Yeah.
But if you posted it as a carousel this time, maybe I might. So think about how you can kind of create the same ideas for all different people in your audience, I think. And like, is there just something you can do on the hook? Maybe your hook was just really bland and it didn't call out your audience, just changing the front cover of a carousel or a reel can make a massive difference.
And to be honest, this should probably be a matter of course anyway for everybody. We should all be doing this.
Yeah, totally.
And I think there is this issue where people think, oh no, but my client is paying me to create content. And I bet you anywhere that you've never said, I will be creating new content.
Yeah.
And what's important, it's like if your client is just selling like one jumper, what do they think you're going to do? Like come up with constantly new ideas about
365 ideas for the same jumper.
Yeah, exactly.
Content,
And the reality is there are probably attributes to that jumper you can draw on. There's kind of information about the business. There's the processes in terms of buying it, maybe how it's made, kind of, where you source your cotton from, that kind of shizzle.
All the interesting stuff.
Yeah, but that's not going to last you 365 days, is it? And we're not saying you have to post every single day. Obviously you don't. But my point is...
No, and we're not saying that there's very many brands out there that only sell one jumper.
No. But it's like my client, I think there's probably 10 or 15 key kind of USPs as to why people should use them. And I don't just post those 10 or 15 things back when I started working with them 5 years ago and I've never posted it again. Obviously, I'm thinking, right, how can we get this message across differently? What can we say this time? What kind of image could help with that? Should it be on a reel or is that going to be lost? It's all these kind of things that you just have to kind of rinse and repeat. And then sometimes they work, sometimes they tank, and that's just the nature of what we do. And even the best people with the biggest accounts, and they'll still have content that they consider tanked compared to others. So you're not shit if your content tanks, you're just testing.
It's just the nature of the beast, isn't it? Like, it's just what happens. Just got to get used to it. But I think it's really important what you just said about, like, we shouldn't be approaching this of trying to find new ideas. We should be approaching this of trying to find new ways to make what's working work better.
Exactly.
So it's not about new ideas. It's not about new content ideas. It's about new ideas to go and look back at what's already worked. And okay, how can we make that the control and get better results than that previous thing, and come at it from that angle instead. And then you'll struggle to run out of ideas that way.
Yeah. And if this is something you really struggle with, we have got a resource that can help you. You just go to thetwolauras.com/remix, and that will give you a guide as to how to effectively repurpose your content for you and for your clients.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, next one then. I think this is a good one. If you have got clients who are kind of especially really interested in what you're doing, like some clients really couldn't give a toss, but other clients really want to be involved. And I think these are the clients who can help you with this stuff probably better than others, is actually have conversations with those clients. and like asking them, what is it that you want people to know about? What have you got coming up? What's changing in the business? What's been going on behind the scenes, and having these conversations with the clients to actually pull out information from them. Now, some clients, it will be very difficult to get that information from them because they'll just be like, zoned in on other things, and they think that that's your job. But if you can have these conversations, you can come up with some really good ideas. I know you have these conversations with your client all the time, don't you?
I've just had, one recent, I meet with my client once a month, and that's the kind of conversations we have. But I'm just thinking the other day, one of the team had said to us, right, we're hosting an event. So they gave us like the details, like the date, the times, kind of top line, what was happening. And so we created a Facebook event. It's still quite early, so we haven't done a big thing about it. And one of the same team member came back and said, oh, well, you've not mentioned this and this, which I did know about. And I was like, and I went back and I said, yeah, no, I know. We've purposely held that back because we need reasons to keep talking about it. I don't want to just keep saying, we've got an event. So I can say, we've got, if did you know this is now happening? Or we're excited to announce this is now happening. It's not actually that exciting, but it's giving reason to keep talking about this event other than just saying we've got an event. And then he was like, oh, right. Well, also in that case, then could you make sure you mention, and gave me like 3 or 4 other different things that I had no idea was happening at this event. These people were attending who apparently is a really exciting thing. And I was like, God, if I hadn't have had, and that was just on WhatsApp, that wasn't like on a phone call or face to face. Like if we hadn't kind of gone down that route of explaining that I need these things as reasons to keep promoting this event, then they'd have probably sent me some arsey message the day of the event. Or if the event had been a complete like flop, it would have been, it's cool, well, Laura didn't mention blah, blah was coming because I'm a mind reader, obviously. So yeah, I think it's really important to have these conversations with clients, and it's really important to try to get them when they're not distracted. And that's why, like this one particular client of mine, like I am not a meet in person kind of person. I like to just have a quick phone call. And he is local, which does make it obviously easier. I wouldn't do it if he didn't live so locally, but he is the type of person who is incredibly busy, as a lot of business owners are. And if I speak to him on the phone, I can just tell he is not present on that phone call, and he's probably got his laptop open, or he's distracted. Whereas when I go and meet with him, and sometimes that's for an hour, sometimes that's for bloody 3 hours, but it's face to face, and I have got his absolute attention. So I can say, right, what is coming up over the next like 6 to 8 weeks? What's this? What happened with this? Pull back on some of the things that we talked about the previous month that still haven't happened. And it's the way that I can get that information. And I'm not saying you've all got to go and suddenly meet face to face with your clients, because actually I don't think you do. But you do have to make sure that your client has got dedicated time available to speak to you. Don't just like ring them on the cuff, because they're likely not in that frame of mind. So make sure you actually schedule proper meeting times, however often you see appropriate. But those meeting times I find that a lot of social media managers speak to their clients, and they do the whole speaking like once a month or what have you, or go on Zoom, but they tend to be looking at what's happened, like talking about the results, talking, rather than be like,
and it's mostly the social media manager doing the talking, not the client.
Yeah, and I rarely talk about we kind of talk about the success of the previous month, or not, as the case may be, but only in a way that's kind of helping to plan what we're going to do going forward. We're not sat there going, oh, well, I had 1,000 impressions and I had a reach of blah, blah, and this post flopped. And because that's detail that he doesn't give a shit about, and I don't give a shit about, because it's old news, Anyway, I'm digressing, but definitely having those dedicated, clear times in your diary to speak to your clients will help you when they give you more information.
And I think also it's important to remember that like with everything, you don't know what you don't know, and your client doesn't know what they don't know. So like what you were saying about if you hadn't explained why you needed that information, why you were holding stuff back, if you don't have those conversations and your client doesn't understand stuff, then you're always going to be lacking in information from them. So it is kind of an education piece the whole way through when you're working with a client. This is why we need this. This is why we're doing this. So they get it, and then they're much more open to giving you what it is you need. Makes your whole life much, much easier. Okay, next one.
So I like doing this one just because I'm quite nosy, going and looking at comments people are making on content. Now, that could be your content, your previous content, but that also could be on your competitors' content, and see what people are saying, what are they asking, what are they grumpy about, what's kind of getting their emotions going, what are they angry about? And that could be, as I say, it could be your content, competitors, it could be influencers within your space, it could be news articles that are relevant to the industry that you're working in. I can't think of any other examples, but because then that you can create content on that. You can see what people's problems are based on what they're saying, and you can go and create some content that addresses that and hopefully gives a solution potentially to that problem.
And even if you're not spotting any problems, but you're seeing people going, yeah, I agree. Oh my God, this is me. Oh yes, yes, yes. And like agreeing with stuff, then you know that those kind of messages resonate. So how can you spin those messages to be relevant to the content you're trying to create? Because you already know that people like it. So what can you do that way? So it's not always looking for the problems and the negatives. Sometimes it's really looking for the over exaggerated positives as well and using those.
100%. But you have to be quite disciplined. This isn't just kind of sitting on Instagram or LinkedIn all day for research. You do have to be quite disciplined because it's very easy to fall down a rabbit hole. But that can give you so many content ideas.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the way to be disciplined is to have time to, because this is really part of your competitor analysis if you think about it. Like, yes, you're going to be looking at your own content and comments on that, but you're also going to be looking at your competitor analysis. And so you can use tools to help make this easy rather than you having to think, oh, I need to go and look at all the posts that this particular competitor has posted in the last month and go and look at all of the different comments. Use tools like Social Insider. We'll put the link for that in the show notes. It's the2laura's.com/social insider. You can pull in, like, set various different businesses in there or, accounts, and you can go and see which of those posts have had the most comments, for example. Rather than going and looking on all of the comments, you can see, right, this post had 100 comments, it reached loads and loads of people, I want those kind of results, then go and look at what it is. Rather than having to scroll through and find all of them, it will tell you.
Yeah.
So it makes your life easier, and that stops like you falling down that rabbit hole. You could totally fall down a rabbit hole in Social Insider, don't get me wrong.
Oh, yeah.
It's easier to pull yourself out, isn't it, than when you're in a Reels feed or whatever.
Yeah.
But you can find out so much information in tools like that and get some really, really good content ideas.
Yeah.
Because it will show you the actual idea, won't it, right in the platform?
Yeah, it's brilliant. I love it for various reasons.
Because you're very nosy.
I am. I'm proud of it. And it and another idea, which is slightly kind of attached to this, is looking at things like Amazon reviews, Google reviews, Facebook reviews. And it's attached to this because you can look at your competitors' Google reviews and not just your own, which you can also obviously do. And I'm not saying, oh, we'll go and have a look at a Google review and screenshot it and put it out as social proof. That's not what I mean, although that can be obviously good content, depending on how you do it. But it's about, often when someone writes a review, they'll say something like, I came to this hairdresser because the previous hairdresser had ruined my hair because she'd left the bleach on too long. This hairdresser did this, told me to go away and do this. She then brought me in. I then did this, and then my hair is now the best it's ever been. That's a really crap example because no one, But then you can say, okay, so that person has gone to another hairdresser with a problem. The hairdresser has kind of given her some advice and then has fixed that problem. So you can go and create content that's like what to do if you've been to another hairdresser and they've ruined your hair. And you can literally and then you're owning that space, So yeah, looking at often when people write reviews, they do start with my problem was this, and this is now been fixed in a roundabout way. So you can totally use that to create content. Amazon reviews are brilliant. They're quite comical sometimes.
Amazon is brilliant for this.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, there is a book or a product for absolutely every single thing on Amazon. Doesn't matter what kind of client you're working with, there will be something on the Amazon that is related to them. Probably a book, but if not a book, maybe some other, product that's related. And if you go and look in the reviews, they will always be like, oh, before I did this, I was doing this, and now I'm doing X, Y, Z. And it's the before thing that you want to pay attention to that problem, because you can solve that in the content. But also, what was the after thing? What is the solution that they were looking for and the result they were looking for? Highlight that in your content, and then everyone will be like, oh my God, that's the result I want.
Yeah.
It kind of helps you to stand out, doesn't it? Amazon is amazing for stuff like that.
And there's so many as well, because people are prolific Amazon reviewers.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating.
And it don't, like, the product of the book doesn't even have to be that related, right? You might help, I don't know, a gym, and you go and look on a book about yoga. It's like kind of related. It's not fully. You might go and look on a recipe book, and it's related to the whole problem that people are having. Yeah. So you don't have to find a specific book about that specific gym. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's not just about my client sells jumpers. I'm going to go and find out what people are reviewing on jumpers. It could be things that are more associated with that, like cold weather, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or if it's like a gym hoodie, you can go and see what people are saying about other gym clothing, for example.
Yeah. Or like what exercises people are doing in the gym, or the best way to, recover after an exercise routine, all of those sorts of things. Looking in the reviews and you'll probably find stuff. Yeah. It won't be about what the book is about or about what the product is about. It'll be about what people are saying and using their words. Definitely spark ideas.
That point is important, where you're using their words, because, and we've talked about this before on previous podcasts, we as marketers can sometimes get the wording wrong, especially when we're talking about our own businesses, where we can overcomplicate things because we forget that certain terminology isn't known, or acronyms aren't known to your audience. So looking at the words people are using are really important for you to try to mirror that in your content, because that's the language that they're going to understand. Nothing more complex than that.
It's very much like, if you think about the whole ChatGPT thing, where literally no matter what you ask it to write, it will come back with an elevate or enhance and a rocket emoji. And we know that humans don't speak like that, but obviously ChatGPT still hasn't learnt that. But if you're looking at what people are actually saying in Amazon review, and you're saying enhance and elevate and using rocket emojis, the two are not aligned,
Oh my God, please never do that.
Honestly, ChatGPT have ruined all of the emojis for me. It's just very depressing. Anyway, we digress.
Okay, so the final idea is we merged a few together then. The final idea is about trending topics, trending conversations, content that's out there, and how you can utilize that with your content. The caveat being, the trend has to be relevant to your business or your client's business. You can't just use any trending, like at the moment, there's loads of trending things about the general election. Like, that's not going to be relevant to a huge proportion of businesses, because obviously they don't want to have...
And will probably put off a lot of people too.
Yeah, there's the whole political alliances. And so just make sure it's relevant and appropriate.
Yeah. And like, when we're talking about trending things, like, we don't mean trending audios, although that could spark an idea. But whenever we start talking about trending things, people always are like, oh, what trending audios and blah, blah, blah. And there's a whole, obviously, other conversation about whether you can use this and stuff. But we don't mean jump on the trends that are happening. Like, use those trends to inspire what you're talking about. If people, like, I know that I don't watch it, but I know people have been talking about Bridgerton a lot lately. Yes. And that might not be relevant to your audience or you, but it might spark ideas, because you might, I don't know, have something that's relevant, kind of slightly adjacent to Bridgerton, and you wouldn't necessarily mention Bridgerton and use it as the trend, but it could spark ideas in other ways. What are people talking about in that content? Are they talking about, for example, fashion, and you work with a fashion brand? What what can that spark out of your ideas? Thinking about all of those things. If they're talking about, I know there's been a lot of conversations about like body image and stuff because of Bridgerton. Is that sort of stuff relevant and can spark ideas? It's all of the things that are related to those topics and those trends that you don't have to just jump on the trends. You can use them to inspire you as well. It's like you have to pay attention, don't you? And a lot of people, when they work in social media, because they're so in social media all the time creating content, they try to switch off. But it's really important to stay ahead of, and stay on top of those trends and look at those trends to see if they can inspire you, especially if you are somebody who kind of runs out of ideas a lot.
Yeah.
Don't just rule them out.
But that, with that in mind, it isn't, you can jump on the trend with,
totally.
But it's got to be appropriate. But yeah, there are other ways that you can utilize the trends. But it's like I was chatting with one of our members, Steph, the other day, her niche is like the beauty industry. And she'd used a meme from Love Island. And like I was saying to her, I don't know whether are you watching Love Island?
No, not yet.
Like I said to her, it's like, this is just content galore, the amount. Because Love Island, obviously it's not going to be relevant for all beauty industries, but these girls have had a lot of work done. They've all got, their nails done and all of that jazz. And there's so much content she can use because of that. And obviously you don't want to burn out and she isn't, but every single post being a Love Island meme. That's not what I'm saying. But there are opportunities when these trends go in yours or your clients' favours that you can totally rinse, especially if it's funny.
Yeah, definitely. We do love a good meme.
Yeah, maybe we need to get on the Love Island memes.
Yeah, maybe I need to start watching it.
Oh, you do?
It's the first time I've not watched it, but maybe I'll get into it.
Yeah, it's good.
It's just a big commitment.
It is. And already I'm getting behind, but, Maybe
we need to start a Love Island podcast. Anyone want a Love Island podcast from us?
Yeah, we might lose listeners, to be honest, Laura.
Yeah, this is true. Don't judge us.
This is my guilty pleasure. Although I am also a Bridgerton fan and I think we could gain listeners. Let's talk about, but you need to watch Bridgerton.
Yeah, no. I feel like we've totally digressed from what we're meant to be talking about on this podcast, so I do apologise for that.
But I'd love to know if you're also a Love Island fan and a Bridgerton fan. You can come to my Instagram and chat to me about that. That's Laura Davis, by the way, not Laura Moore. Yeah, so come chat because no one else is chatting to me about it.
If you want to chat about any other reality programme that's ever been created, I'm your girl.
Yeah. Anyway.
So should we just do a quick recap just so you know exactly all these things you're going to do next time that you've run out of content ideas?
Yeah, stick it on a Post-it note.
Yeah, definitely. Write this down. Open your notes on your phone. Write it down. First thing is to get away from your screen. Take a break. Just get away, clear your head. Then look at the content that you can repurpose in terms of great content that was performing really well or content that tanked that you think you could probably try in a different way. Have conversations with your clients, see what's coming up, what ideas they've got that you can use in your content. Go and look at the comments on your own content, on your clients' content, on your competitors' content. Do some competitor analysis. Go and use that tool we mentioned, Social Insider. We'll put the link in the show notes. Go and look at reviews on Amazon, Google, Facebook, anywhere where there's reviews, TripAdvisor, all of those sorts of places, wherever they're relevant, go and look at those. And then, as we said, trending topics, trending content, news things, the latest Netflix show, all of those sorts of things can also help to inspire ideas. I hope that's helped. And, if you want to chat about this more, don't forget we're always in the Facebook group. The link for that is in the show notes as well, or you can just go to the socialmediamanagershub.com and come and ask us any questions.
Okay, so that's it. We'll see you same time, same place next week. Ta-ra!
Auf Wiedersehen! That was very German because of the football, but by the time this episode goes out, we've probably already been kicked out. So apologies for that.
Ta-ra!